this guy could be a loose cannon.
He was 110% that.
It was as if my soul was slipping away, and I didn't know what to do to stop it.
It kind of reminded me of a Timothy McVeigh type.
Something would come over me, and I could feel it come over me, and I could feel the hatred and anger just welling up inside of me.
When he would get in fights, his intent was to kill somebody.
The story you're about to hear from Eric Earhart is an excellent example of God's transforming power. He was the baddest boy in town, always in trouble with the law, and living a life that was on a downward spiral. Have you ever known anyone like that? Have you ever known someone that you thought that they were so terrible, even God couldn't straighten them out? Well, that's what people thought about Eric, but then God proved them wrong.
I was raised in a household that was outside of Christ, and began to hang with a wrong crowd. Within a year, was doing LSD, Quaaludes, marijuana, cocaine, breaking into homes, breaking into schools, breaking into churches, and began to just live a lifestyle that was on the edge.
He fell right in that, and in that drug crowd, and they are very tough people. They're very, there's a pecking order, and he was bound to be at the top.
My brother and I bought a refrigerated seafood truck, and we were already running a 38-foot offshore fishing vessel.
I had a boat that I allowed his brother and him to use as a commercial tuna fishing boat. And they would take the fish and sell the fish, and we would get a portion.
I began to explore the option now of running drugs, trafficking drugs, if you will, through the seafood business. And next thing you know, I'm hauling kilos of cocaine. Something deep and dark happened when I took that step. I crossed the line. I just felt something would come over me, and I could feel it come over me, and I could feel the hatred and anger just welling up inside of me.
You look in his eyes and you could see crazy. There was no fear. He had no fear of anybody, anything.
One occasion, a gentleman owed me just $900. I went and beat him with a baseball bat first, and told him to leave town. And he didn't leave town, and so again, that was an affront to me as a drug dealer, and it was making other people believe that my threats didn't mean anything. And so I took a rifle, and I loaded it up, and I went to his home on Christmas Eve. And I went and kicked his door in, and I put the gun in his mouth, and I pulled the trigger. And the gun misfired. I said, God wants you to live tonight. And I didn't even know God. I met a young lady who was working at a strip club and had begun to date this young lady. And her mother was a strong Christian. She asked me, I don't know if you've ever heard about the fact that Jesus Christ died for your sins so that you can be forgiven. And as I walked out of the house, it dawned on me, I had just heard the truth, that I was going to hell. And that began to weigh on me. So I began to try to change my own life, and I began to try to clean my life up, if you will. And I'd even begin to remark to people that the drug dealing days were over, that I was getting ready to stop. I was going to give all this up. I had decided that I was going to make one last drug run, if you will, the last hurrah, and was going to run to New York and pick up some drugs. And on the way back from that run, the SBI and the local county sheriff's department had set up a roadblock for me. They were waiting on me to come back from up north. And sure enough, they stopped me, yanked me out of the vehicle, arrested me. And even as I was laying on the ground that night, it was about 4 in the morning, it was kind of a drizzly rain, and it had the dog, you know, they had the dogs were barking at me and the guns were pointed at me. And I just looked up and I said, thank God it's over. I just knew in my heart that it was over. Ended up being convicted of 2 counts of trafficking, each one of them carrying 42 months. I had gotten out on bond, so I was kind of free, but still facing all this time. You know, I still had my trial to go to. I just cried out to God, and I said, you know, I'm not asking you to get me out of trouble. I'm not asking you to get me out of prison. I said, I'm afraid that I'm becoming totally evil. And I said, if you can do something with my life good, if you can make it into something that has any value or worthwhile, I said, because I've ruined it. I've ruined my life. I said, if you can make it something good, take it, please, and do something with it. After I prayed, I had just a complete sense of clarity, if you will, and peace, that I needed to just go face this thing, whatever come, whatever the consequences, that I just thought that God's going to be with me. When I got to prison, I said to God, I said, God, I'm not one of these people. I'm not like these people. I don't deserve to be here. I don't belong here. And it was as if all of a sudden inside of me, this voice said, no, you are one of these people, and you're no better than anyone else. I love everybody the same. And it was as if overnight, I began to just tell everybody I could find about Jesus Christ.
He would pray for everybody and read the Bible to them, speak about the Bible all the time. And when you're in prison, you got a lot of people who talks against the Bible.
I had heard from a volunteer in the prison. I'd heard about a church called the Carpenter Shop in Hosky, North Carolina. And so I asked my dad, I said, Dad, would you mind picking me up on Sunday mornings for my community visit pass and taking me to church at the Carpenter Shop?
During the worship setting, I noticed a young man who was just at liberty to worship the Lord.
He didn't know at that time that I was an inmate in prison.
This guy is very unique. I'd like to hear more about who he is and what he's all about.
I asked him, just out of the blue, I said, do you visit people in prison? And I said, I want you to come visit me.
When I would visit Eric Earhart on the prison camp there in Gates County, North Carolina, we find ourselves sitting out there under the tree at a picnic table.
And he said, I believe that God is calling you into the ministry, and I would like you to come to the Carpenter Shop when you get out of prison.
I saw a life transformed and changed by God's power. And I saw the unique giftings and abilities that Eric Earhart could bring to the table.
I had 68 days left at that time in prison, and so he asked me that immediately upon release, would I be gracious enough to come and be their outreach minister at the Carpenter Shop Church.
Simultaneously, we were at a place where we were going to plant a church.
Little did I know at the time it was a divine appointment from the Lord that God was using Pastor Wallace Phillips to open a door of opportunity for me to fulfill what God had called me to do. October 27th was the first public worship service for the Upper Room Assembly. And since then, over the last 4 years, we've seen the ministry grow to the point that we have on Sunday mornings somewhere in the neighborhood of 125 to 150 people worshiping in a town of 280 people. I love to just be able to stand before them and say, you know what? There's not a person in this room today that has committed more sins in their life than I've committed, and has hurt more people than I've hurt, and done more evil than I've done. And I don't say that to boast about the evil. Then I turn around and tell them that, you know, if God could save me, if He could forgive me, and if He could heal me and make me a new person, then certainly He can do the same thing in your life.